Hello, everyone, and welcome. Please welcome us back to this very day, this Wednesday, where we spur those gears of thought, give us an understanding of how things work, political analysis on things, some general yap, philosophical development, and some economical analysis, only in theory. I'm not no numbers guy. I'll pull out some numbers, but besides 3.5%, not sure about any other numbers. So today we are starting with some quotes, some basic stuff, some stuff that we can just go over very easy. And we're going to start with these very specific ones right here. This comes from Socialism, Utopian, and Scientific. I had just finished up these notes for these like little quotation and expansion type of note style the other day for our study group. This is where we're going to be reading just these two and then a little bit more after. But I wanted to get the main focus, the main point, and what I wanted to talk about, which relates to the talks we're going to have later about GSUS. Here we go. Starting with the quote right at the top. The individual producer, as a rule, had from raw material belonging to himself and generally his own handiwork, produced it with his own tools, by the labor of his own hands or his family, right? There was no need for him to appropriate the new product. And Engels, we were talking about how the handicraftsman or the capitalist, in relation to handicraftsman, capitalist had to appropriate this new product made because the capitalist didn't make it directly. Handicraftsman makes it directly. That's like someone making a basket, basket weaving. That's all within their labor, their hands. That person made that basket, right? So in this little short description, Engels briefly describing how it was not common to question the ownership of a product made by someone. If someone made it, they made it. Those working in guild pursued not much for the earning or the money, right? In the book they describe, or Engels writes, it wasn't so much, but for the education to which they might become a craftsman themselves. And this quote with this explanation just basically says, the capitalist operates on a different mindset, on a completely different train of thought when it comes to ownership and products. See, the handicraftsman, when he made and crafted leather boots, tunics, shirts, hammers, sickles, pitchforks, whatever, any tools, or any of that, the handicraftsman did, and it was theirs, and they sold it for the sack of grain, however, whatever wares or goods they can get for it to give himself more sustainability of life, right? That was the common exchange in feudal times. When the capitalists entered the stage, capitalists said, no, we're doing things a little different. To which the next quote, the contradiction between socialized production and capitalist appropriation manifested itself in the antagonisms of proletariat and the bourgeoisie. The proletariat who have been appropriated, right, from their stolen labors to which they produced and do not have, and which the capitalists, the bourgeois, right, in contradicting, have, to which they did not make. Contradictions. That's a contradiction. The handicrafter, who had whole right to claim his products were made were his to sale, right? He made it, he sell it, we're all good there. The capitalist uses the same logic, however, he does not labor what he sells and simply just owns outright by way of private property relations, of which private property relations constitute in this state. You have a state apparatus, right, military and all that, and you have this sort of constitution, this decorum of society, that's Veblen, to which everyone understands, that's theirs, not mine. Even though somehow I made this, it's a form of alienation of labor. Somehow I made this object and I put it on the assembly line and the belt, and it's off, whisked away, no longer to be seen by my hands or my eyes. And it's gone, and it's sold, and all of the profits made privatized away from me, and I just get the meager paychecks, the meager scraps from what I have ushered in and labored. Socialized production, you get the entirety of it. I think there's a quote about socialized production. I think it's this one. We'll do these. This one right here. Okay, this quote right here. But the chief means by aid of which the capitalist mode of production intensified this anarchy of socialized production was the exact opposite of anarchy. It was the increasing organization of production upon a social basis on every individual productive establishment, right? So anarchy in this term and this use is no organization, no structure. People just, the handicraftsman saw, or the person needed something from the handicraftsman, made the single exchange, right? In a socialized mode of production, or in the social basis of which production has been based in, you have multiple people doing multiple different things inside of one production to make the product or service for the person asking for it. Or you divvy up the workload complete into different parts, the division of labor, to make that product a thing, and where the branches of industry then become of themselves. Oh, I work in this particular administration department of the company, or I work in this specific part of logistics or whatever, on floor warehouse, right? Your specific branches of industry. Let's see right here. Individuality of production was socialized, but the ownership was kept private and personal. The anarchy described as lack of organization. It was capitalist not only gave way, but enforced through the demand of the ever-increasing capacities of society's production. The more and more people got socialized in production, the more the capitalists had reign and control of how to maneuver these pieces on the chessboard of life and economics. Oh my gosh, the bourgeois picked up the chessboard. Now they are the game master. Supposedly, they became the first class in society because of this way. Private property and ownership, this right, not this divine right, but this unalienable human right of me to pursue life, liberty, and the pursuit of property, happiness, and all that stuff. But here we go. That's pretty much it. I mean, this is one of the ones I just wanted to talk about, how the capitalists just understood this way of life. I own stuff, even though I don't labor it, right? And how we're talking about, well, obviously you do, or obviously you don't. You don't own any of that. But the people social made it, right? And it's understanding how we can come together as a social people to delegate the profits of which in a social mode of production takes care of one another, not to individualized production to which the products made by the social is appropriated by the individual. Contradictions. See how the movements between these contradictions: social, individual, private, whatnot. Okay, let's pull up this next one. That was a little bit of Marx, a little treat for the proletariat. This schedule goes as follows. Let's see. I think I'll pull this up real quick. Speedy McGee with it. Not the manifesto, not this one. The program. Wow, check this out. This is what we're talking about. I told you talking about GSUS. We're going to be talking about GSUS for the rest of the time. Right? What time do we have left? 50 more minutes. 50 more. That's what we're going to do. Yes. Yeah, usually. Yeah. So you can raise your hand, talk in chat, drop your question anytime, whichever, however you feel, going through these points. But we're going through these points, platform and program, 10 points accompanied with a general description, laws of dialectics. This is my little contribution talking about it, and I'll expand on a little bit more. And then our 3Ds. We have GSUS has 3Ds. The 4-letter acronym network that we are has 3Ds, right? We're just full of letters. It's great. It's crazy. It's amazing. So we're going to hop right straight into it. Everyone knows what's going on. I'm going to zoom this in for everyone. Here we go. Without further ado. General Strike's US 10-point platform and program ran just a couple weeks ago, Sunday, May 25th. 25 at night. SpongeBob. What we want now, not later. What we couldn't get in the past. What we organize for now. First point out of 10. We demand self-determination and full liberation of all oppressed peoples. Very simple demand. At least I think it's like one of the staple demands. All people have the inherent right to determine their own destinies. We demand the power to govern our communities, workplaces, and resources through direct democracy and dual power structures. This includes constitutional and systemic transformation, the release of political prisoners, and sovereignty for indigenous nations and all colonized peoples. It's a banger. That's a banger for starting off strong. Start off strong, you're going to continue seeing the strides in these next points. We demand collective ownership and democratic control of our labor and time. Should have seen it right in the gut, right where it hurts. How does capitalism work? Through labor. What do we want? Take our labor back. Gut punch. We reject wage slavery and capitalist exploitation. Time and labor must be organized through cooperative systems like time banking, mutual aid, and worker-controlled production. When millions withdraw their labor and build alternatives, we build the power that no system of oppressors can suppress. Because why is that? We made it ourselves. We done did it ourselves. So the system that which we currently inhabit was made by someone else, who someone else interests, benefits, not ours, obviously. When we do make systems ourselves that address our own needs, that's kind of where the dual power comes in. That's where the kind of collective ownership comes in. We demand universal access to life-sustaining resources. Housing, healthcare, food, clean water, energy, and education are not privileges, they are rights. Because without any of these, you just die. You just no longer exist. What's the point of being here? There's a little sidetrack, but as point of material existentialism as the outlook, the point of existence is to exist. Like the reason why you're here, you ever ask yourself, why am I here? What's going on here? The first point in existence is to just exist. Kind of like in a parallel how spiritualists understand the world. You're just here. Now you feel it. Same thing. You're just here to exist. And then you make whatever of you want out of it, We call for free universal access to essential services funded by taxing the rich and dismantling corporate control. We must build public systems governed by and for the people, right? Tax the rich to death, at which the rich then become workers. So that's, not every single worker can become bourgeois billionaire because it requires an immense amount of exploitation concentrated, right? To which that concentration and exploitation brings about a concentration of wealth, labor, and capital. Now, you tax the ever-living hell, or you just basically strip away all of their capital. What do they become? Individuals of labor, individuals and people that can do stuff at the most basis. The capitalist becomes proletariat, super oppressed in the gulags. Oh my God, the wonderful gulags for our lovely billionaires. Can't wait for that. Can't wait to build that. I'll be building one of those near me. The absolute glorious gulags for the billionaires. Right? Their labor finally being put to societal work. And I'll tell you what. 5. We demand intersectional justice and the protection of all identities. Our liberation is collective. We fight for the full rights and dignity of LGBTQIA plus people, women, disabled people, immigrants, refugees, and all oppressed communities. No revolution is complete unless it includes all of us. We build movements that center those most impacted by injustice. That's fact. That's a big fact. See, GSUS, not so much a group of leaders, but also a group of followers. No one's a leader, everyone's a follower. No one's a follower. We're all of many of the same things, in the ways we need to be in order to make this strike a thing. See how that works? All right, it's a very, very methodical plan. It was very, very well out, this strike. I love talking about the strike. More so as disabled people as well. Just a little bit of a personal drop right here. I've been learning American Sign Language recently. It's very cool. Very cool. Right? Sign language. Hello, thank you. I can sign the ABCs, A, B, C, D, E. Okay. So I'll be learning sign, right? And what's interesting about the deaf community, the non-hearing community, is that, they're just people. See how it's just like everyone else, they're just people. And what's interesting about sign language, the language itself, is that it is an actual language. It's a full-bodied, literally a full-bodied form of expression that people use, and it's no different than any other language besides that being it spoken. So American Sign Language, right? Sign language, that's how you sign. Sometimes sign is like this. S's, that's the sign for S. So you do two close open fists for sign. Yes. But I am no instructor. Do not ever learn sign language from anyone who isn't deaf. That's like learning a language from someone who speaks their language as a second language. Like having someone who's learning Spanish from someone whose first language is English. You want to learn the language from the primary source, right? So you always learn the language from the primary source. So learn sign language from a deaf person, right? That's kind of what you learn Spanish from a native Spanish speaking person. Kind of the same thing, and it is basically the same thing. Learning languages.
What are you talking about?
Disabled people.
Can we ask you to drop onto mute for just a second? There'll be a discussion period in just a minute where you can ask all your questions. Thank you so much.
Yes. Sign language is awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Corin. I appreciate you. Oh, here we go. Next on to point 6. We demand indigenous sovereignty and environmental justice. Yes. We demand the return of stolen land, enforcement of broken treaties, and indigenous-led environmental stewardship. Our survival depends on ending extractive capitalism, protecting ecosystems, and transitioning to community-controlled, sustainable energy and food systems. Right? It's not that well effective to grow food here, ship that bitch across the country. It'd be much easier to grow that food. Now here, of course, you can't grow food everywhere. I'm not saying you can't just grow all the food everywhere, right? But, you have regional places and where you can grow regional things to which you can really only eat those in those regions. It's kind of like, grow shit where they're supposed to grow. Kind of a Veblen's man-made garden. But Veblen's man-made garden is basically taking plants, usually for conspicuous consumption purposes, usually for the flaunt, for the display. Oh, I'm very wealthy and rich. I can move these plants and such, right? Conspicuous consumption, man-made garden, uprooting plants where they don't belong. Like, why do all that when the plants already exist here, right? Or the plants already have the fruit bearing and the food bearing to which the native people already take. So why not just do that? Why not just eat food that's locally grown, that's native. And I just make no need to like, diets, everyone. And that's why you travel, so you can experience different food, right? That's just another aspect of the strike, another aspect of socialism. Travel, eat different foods, not just have the food come to you. That's capitalist convenience. Ooh, don't do that. We demand economic justice and cooperative power. We call for an end to capitalist domination. Yes. Our future lies in cooperative economics, mutual aid, credit unions, worker-owned enterprises, and democratic planning. Wealth must be redistributed from corporations to communities, and economic power must be held collectively. As a whole, as a collective, right? We're not here recreating just another type of hierarchy or form of top-down economic control. Oh, the dictatorship of the proletariat is dictators everywhere. Oh my God, you do this now, you do that. We're doing things a little different here. 8. We demand the abolition of the military and prison industrial complexes. Yes. We oppose all forms of state violence. We call for the dismantling of U.S. imperialism, the prison system, and police repression. We demand investment in transformative justice, mental health, harm reduction, and grassroots community safety programs. All beautiful, lovely things. I'm sorry, just reading the chat. Ooh, yes. See, I love me a little some ASL, some American Sign Language. We demand reparative and restorative justice. We call for reparations for the descendants of enslaved Africans, indigenous peoples, and communities targeted by environmental and economic violence. This includes material investment, land return, resource redistribution, and the restoration of stolen wealth. So all I'm hearing is great things. All I'm saying is great things. What I'm reading is great things. All these fun, wonderful things. 10. We demand global solidarity and anti-imperialist unity. Our struggle is international based. We stand with liberation groups from Congo to Palestine, from Haiti to Sudan. We demand an end to sanctions, occupations, and global capitalism. Our collective freedom depends on the liberation of oppressed people everywhere. Based. That's kind of what it's about. What we believe. I'll expand on this a little bit too. We believe in the power of organized people to transform society through sustained strategic action. When 3.5% of the population engages coordinated resistance, fundamental change becomes inevitable. We believe in building dual power structures that serve immediate needs while developing the capacity for revolutionary transformation. Through mutual aid, time-making, and survival programs, we create the foundation for a new society while fighting the old. Our platform is rooted in the understanding that capitalism, colonialism, and imperialism are all interconnected systems of oppression that must be dismantled together. We believe in the necessity of both meeting immediate community needs and building long-term revolutionary consciousness through political education and collective action. The time for transformation is now. Join us, please, in building a movement that serves the people while creating the conditions of the fundamental social change. Some quotes and stuff. I will go back to this. 3.5%. We talk about it here in the negation of the negation, but 3.5%, quantity into quality, one of the laws of dialectics. I've been giving this a little bit more thought. Love talking, love thinking about the strike and what the strike entails. So come with a specific figure, 3.5%. Right, Eric Chenoweth's research based off these nonviolent, peaceful, protest strikes, these revolutions that which cause mass change in their respective areas and countries. Okay, 3.5% ballpark number. That's kind of the low end of what you're looking at out of the entire 100% of the population. Right, in this, as we have said, sustained and strategic action, collectiveness, and this structure, and where we all act with each other, 3.5% of us. So that's a quantity. That's a number. That's a quantifiable number that you can ascertain, right? So, but we need 100% of 3.5% in order to enact this sort of revolutionary change, this building and foundation and structure of what makes movements. You need people. First and foremost, as the basic, you need people. People need to be not only present, but actively performing in the duties and the ways of which to enact and uphold this revolution and this movement and this people, right? Doing stuff. You have to make it the common scheme. When 3.5% of the population goes on strike, right? And shows the rest of the millions of other people, hey, look at us. Or look at over here. Here's an example of people taking care of each other. That will be the revolutionizing moment. That will be the tipping point where people are like, hey, wait, we don't have to listen to these guys, right? We can just listen to these guys. That's a horizontal thing, right? Verticality, horizontally. You see that? See how that works? We can listen to each other. We can look towards each other for our needs instead of looking up. That's a lot. That's a far way up. That sounds like a high, like a wall, high climb. Instead, I'll just look around me. right, around us, so that we can see each other, acknowledge each other eye to eye, and see that it is not so much our pursuit to the top that we must desire, but it is our reconnection with the people that that make us, right? Because so when you go to fast food places, right, fast food joints or whatever, restaurants, like any place that serves food, who gives you your food? Not some robot. Dare I even say, not some clanker. Oh my God. I know I'm chronically online. I'm sorry, but it's a person that helps you. It's when you need help, usually a person is there. So here's a contradiction to capitalism. Contradicting to capitalism is that, as we have said beginning, is capitalism requires a social mode of production where people come together, a collectiveness where people have to, labor together. So like on a construction site, not one person's doing every single thing, manning the forklift or the skyjack or jackhammers or any of the boom lifts or whatever. There's not a one man guy, there's a whole team. You call them teams, departments or whatnot that perform together to make stuff happen. But at the end of the day, at the end of the product, it is privatized, right? And it is not so much the functions and forms in which we cooperate and coordinate. I think some of the systems that we do, some, not all, are actually very cool, very nice when it comes to organizing, right? It is the which ways that product ends up utilized that we have a problem. Why is 10 people working for one person to make more than all of them combined? That just makes no sense. Why is that one person making $1 million when all of their other 10 employees make 80,000 each? Excuse me, makes no sense. Quick example, right? But as you scale it up to a business, the person making the least at the company or the business makes a minimum wage, right? Makes a $7.25 or in some states 15, however many. But then the boss, the CEO, person, owner of capital, for one, they don't work. Right. And then two, of course, they make their money just by not working. Ownership is how they make the money. So they don't work and they make their money by owning. How does that work? That's the systems of capital we critique. And it is understanding because most people want to become that. That's why most people are like that. That's why people are like, I want to be this or that because they can become that. Or capitalism is not bad. It's a free, right, and just system. I was on a live the other day, not me talking, but I was just sitting in one of the lives from another comrade, and they were talking with another person who was very, very liberal. Who the amount of they were from like one of the Nordic countries where you had this hybrid of capitalism and socialism, and where you have still people with free markets and individual rights to start businesses and whatnot. But it was kind of like a nice fancy welfare state for the people where you have free education and universal healthcare and whatnot. And I was like, that's still capitalism. You still have people privatizing the means of production. I mean, like you can still describe what this oppressive system is. It's just not as oppressive, right? All of the exploitation has left the country, has been forced out of the country. So the entire country itself exists and rests on top of the global South's exploitation. That's just an entire talk itself. But as I was talking, it's very, very liberal, very opinionated, right? Every single time this person was refuted in their point, they would always come back with, well, that's your opinion. When clearly what was stated as a counterpoint was fact, right? There were historians in the chat in the group, and this person was very opinionated, but that was a very common scheme, right? For an individual to be liberal, right? Self-righteous, justice, have opinions. You have your right to think how you think, and I can respect that. And that just allows me to keep being a bigot. That just allows me to keep thinking how I'm thinking, because that's the world we live in. You're just right. People just, if you want to agree with me, I will just agree to disagree. No, that's what we call an irreconcilable contradiction. An irreconcilable contradiction is something that is not addressed and remains a problem, to which then spurs and motions towards into bigger problems, right? Because what's so bad about, let's say I'm the owner of a business, and then I have my employees, and then let's say I make $100,000 and then they make 70. Hey, the gap's not bad. I'm the owner. I own all of this stuff, and my workers get paid well. Okay, but what happens when you keep increasing that gap, right? Inflating or playing with the tools given and the restrictions allotted. Because there's nothing restricting the capitalist from being like, actually, you know what? Now you're getting paid pennies on the dollar versus my thousands on the dollar, right? That's an actual relationship occurring now. The Walmart CEO or any other big corporation, right, gets billions of dollars, while the lowest wage person earns literal thousands of dollars. How does that make sense? It doesn't. It only makes sense if the individual lacks an understanding of dialectical materialism and historical analysis applied to the capitalist system, of how it developed, to which how it oppresses people. Because how are you going to explain in the capitalist system that there are homeless people, but many more homes than there are to homeless people? That's an irreconcilable contradiction. Okay, so how do you explain people going hungry at the end of every night, but you throw away food because you didn't make a profit off of it, but that food still exists? That's a irreconcilable contradiction. There's many of them. There's a lot of them. Oh yeah, it's because you couldn't labor and you couldn't find the chance and choice to, prove yourself worthy. We don't like you as a society. You're worthless. Oh my God, it's inherent in separation. This misplaced in separation, right? Because this is all due to the schemes of idealism. Like, the ideal cannot reconcile contradictions, so therefore they leave them be, and then that's it. It just sits there, and then it festers, and then you ask the liberal, "Hey, what's up with that?" I don't know, but it's got a gay pride flag on it, so it's okay. That's how you understand it. It's how you come to be with it. You see the reactionary and the liberal react. Of course, they do their thing. I know we're getting a little off topic here, but you understand the liberal, and you all wonder. You can clock it. You can clock it in the language that these people use, that these individuals, right, surmise their or summate their conclusions about the world. It's these group of people. It's that group of people. If I'm a Democrat, you're a Republican. I hate you. Huh? What? Excuse me. Like you. I am this. You are that. I hate you because I am this. Huh? Excuse me. Reactionary alert. Woo. Kind of scary. Not understanding a dialectical method of relationships. Hey, we are both the same in which many cases we are different in many cases as well. You can find commonality in these things. There's no development of dialogue or whatnot. Anyways, before we run out of time too fast, because I want to get to other things. Oh, okay. Here we go.
Can you check your mute there? Sorry.
Can you please go on mute? Oh, don't worry. The storm has calmed. The three laws of dialectics. One of my favorite things to talk about. I love talking about dialectics. Just like the strike, dialectics, I like talking about them all. Here's the first one. Unity via opposite in struggles. Both in the common people and in the class struggle. The most common factor to our oppression is capitalism and occupying forces rooted in colonial and white supremacy. We exist as a revolutionary striking force because the reactionary conservative force exists as a great oppression over the people. Enough is enough. Unity of opposites. What makes us the reactionaries? To us, the revolutionary. To, of course, spur the movements of revolution, to spur this movement and to address this contradiction. Why are they reactionaries? Why are they revolutionaries? Why are we here? Why are they there? That is the unity of opposites. To our reconciliation, to this end of this struggle, there will be no reactionary or revolutionary. All will have been synthesized into this common understanding of the world. Don't oppress me. I don't oppress you. Common mutuality. What's going on, gang? Gang. But it takes a development to get to that understanding because people have their qualms, whips, those ways, differences, separations, and of course the archaic mode of thought, of which will wash through generations after generations through political education, understanding of the material condition. Empathy, people. Easy, right? 2, quantity and quality. We are but a few groups and networks that make it a point to count our supporters and strikers, right? We quantify it, quantitatify it. We make a number out of it. We do this intentionally to display our solidarity, making known that the amount of people who at least know and are fed up with the current system. Our visual quantity will reach a qualitative revolutionary change at or around 3.5% of sustained participation. The gradual rise to 11 to 12 million people in sustained participation will lead this movement, will lead to revolution. This is quantity and equality. Now, to understand the phenomenon of quantity and equality, the angles use the example of boiling pot of water. When you put a pot of water on a stove, crank up the heat, the quantitative addition to heat and that temperature and rise also changes the qualitative state of the water from a liquid to a gaseous state, gets the steam and the boil. The steam and the boil, in which the pot of water for the general strike, is that when you apply that heat, the rise in numbers of the strike, to which gives way to the boil, the actual strike, right? You can see the difference, but you don't see. So when you put the stove on the burner, I'm talking about electric stove, right? Because I have one. Most cases like a fire stove as well. You see the heat, but you don't see the heat transfer, right? But you see that when you see the water boil, you see the effect of it. That's the masses will see, the 96.5% will see the boil. while the active 100% of the 3.5% engage in active participation to cause the boil. Again, picking up what I'm throwing down, right? It is the quantity, 3.5% of the 100% of the population, engaging in active participation, which is the quantity, right? That rise to the boil. 3.5% engages, makes that boil. Oh my God, guys, look at this example. Look at this strike. Look at how people are taking care of themselves without the sustenance and the supposition of the capitalist system. Look at this thing right here called the strike, in which the strike takes care of the people's, addresses their people's needs through our mutual aid networks, time banking, survival programs, understanding the needs of the people, following revolutionary practice, understanding how to address those needs. Not to give people what they want. That's what the capitalist system does. Capitalist system will give you what you want and sell you because you'll buy it. We address the needs of the people because we know what it takes to take care of an individual, how to nurture an individual to development of thought and to become a mature and a respectable part of society. I think that's the most important part too. To nurture an individual to become a respectable part of society should be a core tenet to a developing society. In capitalism, you just get people who can exploit however long, however hard. That's why you get some of these people, these sick and twisted people, these billionaires, all these people who don't think that, oh, water shouldn't be a human right. At that Nestle CEO person or whoever, excuse me, water, all these basic necessities, of course, because they allot the price to live, this decay, no more of this water supplied engages this decay, no more life. So obviously you get water to replenish this life, food to replenish life, shelter to protect life, and of course, replenish it, recovery. All of these factors and all of these conditions that make life must be allotted and issued because no one asked to be alive. I'm telling you right now, no one asked to be here. And we describe this phenomenon in material existentialism as throw. Very simple. THROW. Throw, like a basketball. Throw a basketball. We're just thrown in here. And to what else? What else do we do? That's it. We're thrown in here. And then all the machinations that we come to be with, they just are based upon how we address these conditions. Right. So in the gradual rise, right, just like how gradual rise to the boiling water, 11 to 12 million, at that point in sustained participation, you'll see the boiling around you, right, or at least the individuals who are just now becoming aware of it. The other 96.5% now becoming aware, right? So as we may not feel it as we rise into this form of organization. Think of the boiling pot analogy of, I think it was like a crab or some other animal or so something's getting boiled alive, right? The crab who sits in the lukewarm water is like, oh, this is nice water. As the water rises, the crab conditions themselves to the temperature of the water. Like, oh, it's getting a little warmer, but it's not that hot. Once it starts boiling, it doesn't realize it's boiling. It's already dead, right? I want to use the inverse of this analogy, or like some sort of way to use this analogy, because we exist as that general rise into the bubble. Everyone else in the system will receive a shock. Boom. This is the strike. This is what we're doing. This is sustainable collective action, people, to which they become realized to the boiling of our strike. Like, ooh, this hurts. But it's a wake-up call. It's a rise in revolutionary consciousness, to which then applied to their own material condition. Wait a minute, the system is fucked. Oh, these people are, trying to do something about it. Maybe I could do something about that too, right? Maybe they'll react that way. Maybe other people will react some other way. You never know until you act it out. Well, for the most part, we kind of know. Most people are fed up with this bullshit. So it is up to us to create such a system, to create such ways and woes, mutual aid networks and whatnot, connections, to build the formations of the strike, right? To build the structures of the strike. They're not just going to be like, strike now, withhold our labor, go quit your job. And then you're homeless, or then you end up losing your job, or you end up doing all this, and then all for what? You just contribute to the problem. Harsh to say, but that is why we organize the strike. That's not we're calling for a strike. Guys, strike now. If we strike now, it's going to be very dangerous, very childish. This is why we build up these structures, and I'll build up all of these, right? And before everyone leaves today, I would like to conduct a little experiment with all of you to contribute to that attention to material need. But before that, moving on to the negation of the negation. Ooh, the juice squozen running down my arm. That's how it feels when reading these things. It's so plentiful. Our current oppressed states, as well as our aim to strike, will be negated by the state that negates the initial. We are oppressed, yes, but we will negate the state of oppression by becoming free and attaining our demands as people collective. We strike, yes, but for the purpose of striking, no more. We negate the state of a strike by no longer striking. Why? Because that's the point of the negation. There will be no reason to strike. The capitalist, the imperialist, and colonial system will have been abolished and replaced with something new, something that addresses not only societal issues, but what roots those issues, the people's problems. The system is made of people, so we must address the person, not just the system, to meet their needs. The negated negation brings us to a state that which is different from before, and that which replaces that was once then into something anew. The negation of the negation. Now, there's a little word salad there, but essentially, we strike for one purpose: to not strike anymore. But we strike because there is something to strike against. Why would I stand for anything less for a combination of existence? We are getting less than that. We are getting less than the accommodations for existence, especially when compared to the riches and technologies and the wealth allotted and produced by machines, by hand of labor. It just makes no sense. It's very silly, this concentration of labor. It's horrific. And then our 3Ds. 3Ds right here. Decentralization. We operate as a decentralized network where leadership is collective and shared. Everyone contributes according to the capacity and conditions to create organic, non-hierarchical systems of support and coordination. By refusing centralized power, we build structures that meet the needs of our communities without relying on oppressive systems that exploit us. Dissent. Dissent is the refusal to comply with the capitalist system that prioritizes profit over people. We reject exploitative institutions and choose to build a society rooted in socialism, collective self-determination, and worker control of production. Our resistance begins with recognizing how society fails the working class and organizing to liberate ourselves from it. See, we first experienced the burn. We understand why and how that burn was caused and who caused it, to which then we treat it. We treat it. Diversity. To defeat a system built by diverse oppressors, our resistance must also be diverse. We embrace all marginalized powers, workers, educators, the unhoused, the incarcerated, the exploited, honoring different identities, experiences, and struggles. Together, we build power not through conformity, but through solidarity in our differences. See, I like to call this very phenomena actually, as the appreciation of differences, rather than, of course, the appropriation of differences, right? A nice little ring to it. The relationship between appropriation and appreciation as a dialectical relationship applied to anything. So like do its labor. Appropriation of labor, capitalism. Appreciation of labor, socialism, woo, a development of. Or appreciation of labor, where you don't exploit, right? An appreciation of land, right? Appropriation of land, colonization. Appreciation of land, decolonization, right? So it is this articulated relationship in appreciation, appropriation that helps me, at least me, understand our various facets of these different things that we discuss. And it is the dialectical relationship that helps us understand this. Dialectical materialism, how great of a phenomenon, how great of an outlook. Honoring the legacy from the Black Panthers, General Strike US, that's us. BPPGSUS. The General Strike 10-point platform is built in the revolutionary spirit of the Black Panther Party's original 10-point program, a bold, uncompromising vision of self-determination, liberation, and power for the people. We honor the Panthers, not just in word, but in action. By continuing the work of building dual power, survival programs, community-controlled institutions that meet the needs of the people while confronting the root causes of oppression. Our platform reflects the conditions of our time, but the foundation remains the same: freedom from exploitation, an end to capitalist domination, and collective control over our lives and land. Inspired by the Black Panther Party's clarity, discipline, and radical love for the people, we uplift the 3Ds: decentralization, dissent, and diversity as guiding principles for how we organize and resist today. Just as the Panthers showed us that revolution must serve the people, we carry that flame forward by organizing time banks, mutual aid, political education, self-defense rooted in community. This is not a tribute of nostalgia, it is a continuation of a struggle that never ended. All power to the people. That's our 10 points. Isn't that great? Isn't that lovely? That was amazingly written, amazingly put together. This is so we have this, and I will show you next the manifesto. I wrote a little manifesto. They spit this out bar for bar, absolute, just lava rocks. It's just hot, it's heat, it's fire. Okay, I don't know how else to glaze it. This is the absolute pinnacle. This is great. So 10 points, right? And then if I do, here's the manifesto. I was still editing it. It's still a work in progress. Okay, I have since neglected this poor baby document, but now I'm revisiting it. this manifesto is like the 10 points but extrapolated. So we have 20 minutes left. I'll probably go a little bit over, but we won't get through all of it. Oh my goodness, it's 17 pages. It's not like the manifesto, the communist manifesto, but we talk about the three states of the negation of the negation, the quantity and equality, and the unity of opposites and struggles, right? The dialectics, the dialectical understanding of the strike and what makes something a strike, so that we can apprehend the correct use of the strike in aims to which service our liberation away from the capitalist class, right? Ooh, I don't know who it was, but Ho Chi Minh's my boy right there. Love that guy. The Strikers Manifesto. That's it. This is it. Preface. So I'll start with the preface. Preface actually pretty much covers the entire work. So once we get through the preface, and then I'll start a little bit of the what is the strike, and then we'll just get right into it. The preface. This is an admission. This is a statement and declaration. We strike because there is something to strike for. The conditions of the liberation of the proletariat must be seized and established through all facets available to the working class. Whatever the capitalist allows us to have, we must use. However, these facets must be revolutionary and address, let me just bloom it up for a second. However, these facets must be revolutionary and address the contradictions of capitalism and the system oppressive to the masses, the workers of the system, the slaves of capitalism. If the movement, group, or organization does not ascertain that the liberation of the people must not at least include abolishing the capitalist, colonial, and imperialist establishments, then the former set, here we go, conforms to the latter set, this set. The General Strike US is not the solution to the problem, but a part of the tool needed to dismantle the effective war machine of privatized profits and appropriation of the human scheme of life. We ourselves are a node in the network of an already autonomous group working towards the same liberation as we all are. However, there lacks direction, unity, and solidarity in the class struggle. We are decentralized, not because we despise the centralized mode of organizing, but so we can operate and function as effectively as possible. We are a network of individuals that work when we can, however we can, to structure a general strike against the ruling class. A dissenting strike that, 1, openly disagrees with the current operation of the mode of production, thereafter its superstructure with its culture altogether, celebrities, the Met Gala, right, movies and whatnot, like the celebrity culture and whatnot. And 2, withholds our labor from current establishments while redirecting it into structures and systems that address the people's needs. We are both leaders and followers in our own capacities. We are diverse in more dimensions than two. The depth of our solidarity breaches and connects all struggles to a common and relatable factor. It is merely not enough to just be anti-capitalist, as colonialism can be without such the specific mode of production. The anti-colonials can be racist because land does not concern itself with the quest of separate by preference. We strike against all facets of this reactionary scheme of separation. We champion all forms of liberation, as the principle of withholding and redirecting labor exists inherently with all of our struggles. To do anything, we must labor. In the slightest sense of breathing and thinking, to mass movements of liberation requiring international solidarity to execute. Our work represents us, and the consumption of it becomes of us. The very existence of humans and producing us creatures is laborious, and so we must understand not the product of the motion in the primary, but the study of the parts that make it whole, the machinations of labor itself. The liberation of the people must be accompanied by our labor intersectional, otherwise the fruits of someone's labor will be enjoyed by someone else. The liberation of any under capitalism must be executed under the condition of the liberation of the masses entire as a whole. We must utilize our labor to fashion the tools and resources needed to not do revolution and direct, but to lay the foundation of such a revolution. In the following, you will read first the various facets to the strike, how it is conducted, and what makes a revolutionary strike, as opposed to a reactionary strike. The facets to the strike are many, but we will cover those that make it revolutionary, and one that will contribute to the liberation of the working class. Remember, we must utilize all facets, tools, and resources available to us. If we cannot fashion it ourselves, we are not even on our feet yet. In the latter section, we will apply the dialectical method to the strike. See, that's why you reread your work, people, and discuss what makes a strike move, including its contradictions. There will be discussions of how the quantitative aspect of the General Strike US will lead to a qualitative change in our lives collective. We are our own leaders and followers alike. Multiple things can be true at once, and this is how we advance our thought. Lastly, we will discuss the negations of the strike and what the strike becomes into after its transformation to a non-striking state of the people. As said, we are just another node in the network of autonomous laboring bodies that we work towards the liberation of the working class. That work. Reread your work, people. This piece is to admit, state, and declare the position of the General Strike US as something revolutionary, something that works for the people, and something that addresses the people's needs. We utilize dialectical materialism as the outlook of the network and encourage educational dialogues as opposed to dogmatic, informational debates. Spur the thought. Talk to your people. Engage. Dialogue. We grow through the dialogue and conversation about the contradictions presented. We understand the material condition and thus reality through a series of interconnected relationships in constant motion. When one thing moves, so does another, and so on and so forth. There is a ripple to our actions, and we can study it, and thus become present and aware and experienced in this life. The General Strike US recognizes the crimes against humanity at the hand of the privatized mode of productions, namely the current iteration of the class struggle perpetuated, the one between the bourgeois and the proletariat. The former oppressing the latter and creating the dynamic of existing we come to familiarize ourselves with. Be careful. This is not only unnatural, but harmful to the development of society. Let us discuss now how this common scheme is very oppressive and very dangerous to the development of the individual. Well, you may not get to it. You might get to a good chunk of it. We'll just read it until 5. Get some questions, some dialogue, some discussion, and we'll see where we go from there. So what is the strike? It's about drinking water in between breaks, okay? A strike, first and foremost, is a withdrawal of labor, an intent to make change, and in our cases, take back stolen wages, attain better working conditions, and fight a fight between the employer. A just fight between the employer. Through action, systemically violent. See, this is a new edition. This is a new paragraph. I just wrote that today. So I needed context for what is a strike. Since machines do not function without man, the being that thinks, labor, human, person, individual, technology is not utilized without technique, and capital is not expanded or grown without labor. These things are contingent on one another. The strike, before any context applied, is the withdrawal of labor, this violent action that threatens the livelihoods of the oppressor, property of the landlord, and private profits of the business owner. However, this alone is a threat in name. But dependency still reigns over the workers to their bourgeois masters. The strike is powerful, but only when orientated to address the demands of the proletarian struggle. A revolutionary strike comprises of purpose, optimism, and structure. Although not an exact formula, we use what we can, however we must, to fashion the tools needed building up to the strike. The strike is first a withholding of labor from the systems of capital and private enterprise, notably to the degrees we are capable of doing so. The latter notion will be discussed, but the former is the main point of the initiative of the strike, or the point of initiative, a strike. That'll get reworded. And strike weaken on many degrees. The revolutionary strike is simply just a withdrawal of labor impermanence, whereas the reactionary strike rebounds back into the same or sometimes even slightly elevated conditions as before the strike, the elevation of which only makes fluctuation and not fundamental change. If something oscillates and moves but stays the same shape, then it has not changed but expressed itself in different ways. Change is made when the oscillation and movement makes different in form and function of the object at hand entire. Right. I was thinking about this one phenomenon. It's called plastic deformation. Is that true? I had it up. We'll do a quick little lesson here. Plastic deformation. Here it is. So plastic deformation, you can see here with all my books open, is this point in where you bend something, primarily metal. Like in this case, you use metal. You bend metal to a point where it doesn't rebound. So like when you stretch a spring, it kind of goes back. When you stretch a slinky, it goes back. When you stretch the slinky so much like a metal one, it retains that stretch shape. That's kind of what I was going at for here, but I just couldn't word it like that. Change is made when the oscillation makes different. So like when you shake it hard enough, change will occur. If you only just baby it, kind of like social democrats, just baby it, just individual liberals, like, oh, we can't cause too much destruction and violence and change to the system systemically. We must go order in with the system and vote and whatnot. And that's how we will do that at our protests peacefully. Small shaking. It takes a incredible amount of oscillation to shake the system skinny, right? And that's what we were aiming to do. The strike that the General Strike US conducts is a revolutionary strike, one that seeks to make fundamental change in the social order of society. The order from favoring bourgeois and ruling class interests to the favoring of ensuring the working classes and masses' interests. We do not collaborate with the other class, for the other class is rooted in our oppression, and such collaboration would work out to be a direct contradiction to our strike. Why would we strike with those who oppress us? A strike, then, after withholding labor, is to redirect it somewhere else or elsewhere, meaning that, to reiterate, we are not rebounding back into the system that oppresses us. Dumping our reserve labor back would get us nothing more than what was given us now already. Not a whole lot. The capitalists enforce these chains that bind us and makes us slave to the objects of our labor instead of everyone being their own masters over them, right? How we're talking about at the beginning, kind of the handy craftsman at this point owned everything that he made he could sell because he made it, right? We direct our labor into community-controlled infrastructure, influenced and ran by members of the people who live, shape, and experience the land every day in their area. The strike is to remove our reliance from corporate and private interests to a much closer means instead of conditions that can make familiar all the handling of the means of production. That's the point of the strike, right? It is this pursuit of the means of production, because you can't get clean water if you don't have the means to produce clean water. You don't have sustainable food options if you don't have the means to produce those food options. In this removal of corporate control, we invite the occupation of communities' support and system. A system foreign from the familiar scheme of business and profit, but a system natural and integral to the development of society. We aim not to regress, but to redirect our intention to building the foundations of a mode of production that exploits not, but utilize intelligibly the labor of the masses for the development and bettering of the community at large. So then, what is a strike? An action twofold that takes away from the leech and gives to those who will give back to us, ourselves. We give to ourselves. So when we labor, we give to other people who those other people don't care about us. So what do? We strike and give back to us who know that will give back to us because we give, right? There's those who take, dirty capitalists, and those who give, the proletariat. That's us. We're the workers. We're the individual people of society that don't own capital because we have been gatekept from it and excluded from it. Boom, bam. That's how it's going. Every single one of these questions end with that too. Just a little note. Maybe you might get the end of it. So who can strike? Right? You know what a strike is now. Who can strike now? Literally anyone can strike. Well, literally anyone. But since everyone can do it, it becomes evident the which ways in which we strike that tells us who we are. Right? There are many ways to strike, but all fall into one of the two buckets that represents a struggle between change and conservation, between the revolutionary and the classic the reactionary. A strike conducted in certain ways will yield either or, but regardless of which, anyone can strike. So we will tell how one can strike either or, revolutionary or reactionary. Stated before, we will start with the latter. A reactionary strike tends to rebound back into the same or slightly better conditions, but not stepping closer to liberation, but moving the goalpost the same distance as much was detained in demands, right, or attained. So let's say this is exactly the reactionary strike or the reactionary union. At UPS, I got from $40 to $43 an hour. Okay, don't come at me for the amount of number, but the inflation rose up past $3 an hour, right? To keep the wage that I'm earning, like to keep myself sustainable, right? Because as Marx says in Wage, Labor, and Capital, when the price of goods rise, but the wage stays the same, the wage has lowered because your buying power is less. You can buy less with the same paycheck that you did, giving you effectively a lower wage, right? So when inflation outpaces the rise in wage, that is a lowering of wage. That is theft. You're getting less than what you did last year for the same work that you do for the same company that you're for. Someone go read theory, right? So what's the point of reading theory? That's why. So you can understand why you're being fucked in your workplace, right? It's not to be like, oh, pompous. Oh, to be like, oh, I know this. I've read that. Marx said this. Page 16, chapter, go fuck yourself. No, it's to know that when I look at my boss, I'm seeing some thief. I'm seeing some dickhead who don't want to give me my money because he's an asshole. That's what theory does to a motherfucker, okay? That's essentially what reading theory does, so that you can know how you're getting fucked. Anyways, this happens when the striking group does not recognize the requirements or transformation for the liberation of oppressed and deprived workers, deprived of owning the means of production and receiving their full lot of their labor. The full lot. Like, so when a chair is sold at $100, instead of just receiving pennies on the dollar, $20 for the hour for the chairs that they made, now each chair sold is now given all of their lot to the laborers that labored it, not the individuals looking at, oh, look at production. Look at my production process. And that's all they do. Owners just owning shit, right? We don't do that around here. We actually labor our stuff and appreciate that labor, not appropriate it. Anyone can strike. But depending on the person, the strike and aim will redirect in ways antithetical to the portions or all of their current standing in the world. All of the world has been stroked by the brush of bourgeois living and earning, and perpetuated not by the common culture of consumption, but the material phenomena that place them there. Right? The production phenomena, not just because the bourgeois, they own in capital, and so therefore the class structure of the world is rigid and no one can blah, blah, blah. It is material phenomena. How did they get there? We can explain that. Okay. The reactionary will strike and rebound back into the system that oppresses them. The strike's aim is to make change, and change that is based and principled. The individual who correctly analyze the need for a redirection of labor after its withdrawal are those who strike revolutionary. Their analysis will lead them to actions that address these various needs for navigating through these facets, paths, and transformation for the liberation of the working class. The strike specifically for the revolutionary regards more than the redirection of the intent to withdraw labor rather than the actual withdrawing, right? We're more so concerned of where that labor goes and ends up, because if you're doing a boycott situation where you take your money away from Walmart and then go to Target, or you go from a Target to a Kroger's, that's kind of like the reactionary strike. Right? It's, oh, sure, you're not spending your money here, but you're still spending money in the same system. Take that money just completely out, right? And then go set up a free food pantry. Whoa, incredible. Go help out your local farmers market. Whoa, incredible. Go put a book in a free library, right, if you find one. Amazing, right? The revolutionary strike. The actual the attentiveness to the redirection, not just the withdrawal. It is performative to show and display the withdrawing of labor without its redirection. It is, we mean, what is the point of taking away labor if one is just going to give it right back? So then, who can strike? Anyone. But it is the revolutionary that will strike towards the liberation of the working class, and the reactionary that upholds the status quo. Right? Now you know who can strike. Not just who can strike. What makes someone that strike, or what, like how does that person go about their strike? Is it reactionary, revolutionary? Understand how. Ooh, last one. We'll go over a little bit. This will be the last one, and I'll drop this as a PDF in the chat. How's that sound?
Japan and Peru to reflect the style of food served at the rest of the world.
So I'll just break in again and say, please take a look at your mute button, especially if you're just joining or leaving and rejoining. We're currently in the reading part of the program. There will be a discussion part as we wrap up here.
Yeah, not too long. How to strike. There are many facets to this strike, of which none can be left alone. We must exhaust all options available to us that prove revolutionary, lest we act like children pushing all the buttons on a tall elevator. Boop, 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 boop. We strike like our life depends on it, because it does. We strike as if it is our way of life, because it is. This is not an aestheticism of labor. This is an authentication of labor, meaning that we strike for liberation, not liberalism. We don't like the idea of a strike. It's tiresome, irksome, and taxing. Right? We want to work, but we do because we must for the liberation of ourselves. The inverse would like the idea of the strike, but not the execution of it, and will not because they won't. Sound familiar? We strike for aims that dissent and defect from the system, to openly declare that we disagree and dislike how we currently go about the distributing of our resources, the caring of our land, and the nurturing of our goddamn children. Son of a bitch. And any individual can engage in a strike by engaging in their community, but such a term is too broad and quite used in liberation spaces. We intend to bring clarity in how to engage in community. To do such, one must first not address anything, but listen and understand the situation at hand. Not every set of conditions are the same, and so the solutions to them are equally unique. The community of any will be unique to their own conditions and criteria for building solidarity. There must exist a common factor to rally behind and support from within, on top of and under. This common factor must unite the community and masses if we are to begin to mobilize. The mobilization itself, predicated on the actions and formulations of its organizing, we strike in ways revolutionary and in direct antithesis to how the reactionary strikes. We strike within our own capacities and to which we can and are allowed to. The General Strike U.S. asks no one, is very important. We don't ask anyone to strike in ways and conditions that jeopardize their ability to sustain their material condition. If you're going to lose your job because of strike, don't strike in ways like that. We organize solely on the ability and availability of our labor force of committed individuals, groups, and collective decentralized. The strike for most looks like a redirection of labor or money to farmers, markets, building bonds with neighbors, or building solutions for problems that rely on people, immediate and not corporate business structure. The strike also looks like learning, community discussion, and addressing personal condition caused by systemic negligence. Not every single individual problem is your fault. I say most of them is not your fault. Right. There's some things, right? I'm gonna say completely at fault, but systemically speaking, or like, as a society, most shit's fucked up, and that's what makes people fucked up. People aren't just fucked up because they're born; they're made like that, and the system does that. The strike for one will look different for one and another, but the principle of the strike is the same: the withholding of labor to redirect it towards a system of the people, not oppressive over them. Why else would we strike if not for the complete better conditions of our living? So then how do we strike? We strike in ways we can that dissents against the system oppressive and redirects our labor into structures that addresses the needs of the people and makes the community of the people interconnect. That's it. 501. Let me save this. You'll see some spelling errors and mistake as well. The Strikers Manifesto. Drop that in there. That's it. Any questions? Anyone? I'll go through the chat to come off mute. Want to talk? One quick thing. Okay, sorry, it's not really the end, but one quick thing. I did want to do a little experiment regarding time banking. So you don't have to do this. Like, do this in your head. Just think about it, because I'll make a form for it. I'll see how this can work out. Think about it in your head. I'm approaching you about a time bank, and I pitch you this: save money, do this thing. Write down all of your expenses. Think about this. Think about all the things that you pay for, your subscriptions, any rent, bills. Think about the stuff like coming out of your paycheck, and think of the things that require labor. Think of the things that require services. Think of, like, so when you spend money on something, think of how you can use that in a time bank. Okay. List all of your expenses, right? When you think of an expense, I'll say like surprise car maintenance. Oh my God, your fucking car blew up. You need okay, no, your car broke down, not blew up. Your car broke down. What happens now, right? Instead of paying $1 gajillion to get it fixed, the material example, I provide mostly free automotive services. Right, you have to pay for the part, but reduce labor costs for automotive services for car repair. Right, it feels like, for real. So I'm a mechanic. I fix my cars, and all my cars keep fucking, I don't know. Anyways, you have an expense list, right? You have all of your stuff, whatnot. Now, the idea is to have you mark items. You're supposed to write this on a sheet or on your phone. Mark items that can be used or that can be compensated in the time bank. Because let's say you have a dog walking service, right? Perfect one. Let's say you have a dog walking service where you pay a dog walker, right? Money, dollars. That expense, knock that out. Someone in the time bank can do that for an hour or two every week, or however many days you need it. They'll do that, like, because that's what the time bank is. And that you mark that expense off. Oh, there goes, I'll be honest, I don't know dog walker prices. $80 a week for a day. I don't know. I'm sorry, but that'll be one of the expenses. Like, oh, this can be paid in time. This can be paid in time. That can be paid in time. This can be paid, and whatnot. And then all of a sudden, now you're left with the bare essentials: rent, bills, some, like, most food, because you can get food at a time bank. But like most items, right? Most things that require labor. So like major expenses, like if you like there are plumbers in the time bank, right? I've seen plumbers in the time bank that'll do plumber work. Mm-hmm. So if your toilet, like I use the example, if my toilet gets clogged, I can't unclog that shit. The plumber needs their personal car alternator changed. Let's make the change, right? What change in time, exchange skills, skill exchange, skill share, what? So the whole thing, I just wanted you guys to think of expenses, things that you pay for, and then think of things that you could just use a time bank for. It's primarily labor. So like things that you need stuff fixed. Just think of that. That was the experiment. That is what I'm going to present to people in my area when I have like this little form or whatnot. Be like, why don't you think of the expenses and then think of what you can use in the time bank, and then take those items that you've like, you think you can get compensated in the time bank, post those as requests directly on the time bank. If you have a bunch of people, like a dozen or people who only has one request, like at least one thing they can get from the time bank, that's dozens of requests at the time bank to which people want to do stuff, right? We've polled people in the past like month or so, like asked people in the time bank, what do you think can help the time bank grow? People needing stuff, people wanting stuff, because people have hours logged up and built up from the time bank with nothing to spend it on. So that's just a little thought experiment. Think of expenses, think of things and items that can be used in the time bank, and then request those items in the time bank, like post them up. And then that's it. You've called out the need for the community. The community then looks at your requests, and then that shit happens. That's it. Things coming to my TED Talk, little time bank thing. More to that. So we will be starting those sessions next week. I'm sorry I didn't make it yesterday. I was doing big thinking, and I actually completely just not looked at the time. So that was my fault. Sorry. But next week, we will be starting that every session. Every session, people who come in, they will be getting the talk. Write down your expenses, your lists. Look at what you have for needs, and look at what probably can get away with at a time bank. Post those in a time bank, or have those, right? Because it's a little experiment, and we'll mature the process more so that I can actually approach people, be a streamlined process. Questions asked, boom, bam. Now sign up, make a time account, and then post your request on a time bank. So then people see that. Oh, look at that. This person needs that. I have that skill to fulfill that person's need. Let me go ahead. Things are chugging along. It feels like there's a substance to community building this way, where you ask people, hey, what do you need? Hey, there's a place in a forum right here that you can post your need, and then people with those skills can reach out to you directly. Isn't that great? And it's through time banking, so it structures community building, whatnot, all that nice stuff. But we'll be doing that starting next week, next Tuesday, same time. Sorry I missed it last week or yesterday, 4 p.m. We will be doing that. I'll be asking people, write this shit down, let's talk about it, and then formulate the process better. That's it out of me. Oh my God, 5:06. Okay, great discussion. Yes, it has been. If you need to go. I'm sorry for holding people so long. If you need to go. I'm not holding anyone. So that has been it. Have any questions? Have them up. I'm gonna take some drinks, some drinky drinks. Yeah, come off. You want to talk? Open floor.
I always like to jump in because I feel like people hear me say such boring things that they're always comfortable interrupting me, and then I like to steal those really boring things like, thank you so much for doing this, Jaden. It's just awesome.
Yes. Where is it? There.
And we don't usually stack in here. It's kind of a just jump in and try to keep it as much of a free for all as we can manage to do. Jaden will do stack for us if we make him, I think, but I haven't. We haven't done that here yet.
Okay. Yeah, I'm fine with not doing the formal stack thing. I just thought that was this is I usually am not able to come to these because it usually doesn't work out with my schedule, but I'm so glad I was able to attend tonight.
Yes.
And I just found so many through lines from everything that you were talking about, just stuff that like we're all dealing with lately, and the GSUS movement, and just everything probably in our own personal lives and communities. And there was something you were talking about, something when I first joined, and it related to growing the movement and people joining as the movement grows. And it was the and then you also kind of brought in like the frog in the hot water analogy, right?
Yeah, that one.
But I thought of another analogy that has to do with water, and that has to do with as we get these new waves and influxes of new people coming in, and how we all try to think about integrating new people and making them feel welcome. And the analogy that I have is that every summer, quote unquote, my partner and I, we usually get to the beach even though we live in a coastal area, we usually get to the beach once in September when we finally have a little bit of time and we live in a touristy area and things have maybe calmed down a little, that we feel like we can enjoy a day at the beach together. And, it's the Atlantic Ocean, very, very cold. And he usually just jumps right in. He's just like, I'm going in. And I've got to take some time because it's really cold for me. And it usually takes me kind of 10, 15 minutes. I'm just going deeper and deeper. Sometimes I'll ask him if he hit any rocks or whatever, or if he sees any jellyfish, but then once I'm in, I'm swimming for a while and I'm committed. But it's cold. It really takes me some time to get used to it. And that's always how I have to do it. He'll jump in, swim for a few minutes, and then he's out. And so why am I bringing this up? I'm bringing this up just because everybody has a different approach to getting involved with things. And I think it's good to recognize that we all have those different approaches and let each other be that and do that, and help each other when we have the capacity. And, some people may need to just kind of wade into the water at their own time and in their own time. And then it may turn out that they have, major stamina for the long haul to help other people get in. So anyway, if that's a helpful metaphor, but also just like the rest of everything that you said was wonderful as well.
Thank you, love you. I always appreciate your words, your presence, Elderberry. Much love. Yes, the analogy was great. An easing process is always a great thing to have. I'm part of another party. I'm not at liberty to say security reasons or whatnot, stupid party. The party, though, this organization, has two methods of recruitment. If the individual that we come across is well developed in theory, can become a cadre member, recruitment right out. If we have and see people like of course not everyone's going to be like that, or be well developed in theory, and we don't reject people. We have study groups and we have ways to develop that theory to then enter and issue them into the party so that they can start and begin organizing revolutionary. So there's an easing in process where it's like you don't just hop in straight cannonball into the deep end where it's like, oh, this is a great nice time and whatnot. Some people it works, some people it doesn't. And there are various methods, and there's multiple times we said in the which ways that we can and however must we use allotted to us, we have to, right? And especially in the ways, of course, as we said, as we can. So some people need to ease into it, like the study group, or build theory, or just jump right into deep end. I jumped right into the deep end. I was struggling for a little bit at the beginning, but I learned how to swim, fortunately, right? But everyone who needs to, of course, ease into it. I mean, it's the same way as learning languages, or the same way as learning other languages, right? It's a way of different communications and the which ways you do it. All right. There's no hardship, or there's no qualm or competition against, oh, I can do this faster than you. That just ruins the entire movement. It ruins the entire vibe of the group. It's like, oh, you can do this faster? Well, let me help you because, or let people develop, let people be united, right? There's no the schemes of competition very silly. Competing seems very silly to me. It's like, oh, I am X, Y, Z better than you or whatnot. I don't know. There's just no point to it, especially when you consider the material condition. People are dying. People are starving. People don't have access to anything that they need to survive, which results in death. I mean, there's so many more things to worry about. There's so many things more to organize around. I mean, from each according to their labor and their need, ability and need. I saw one question. What is mutual aid? Oh, it was a while ago. Mutual aid is not charity. So mutual aid is not just giving stuff, right? Because charity is just giving stuff. In a one-way relationship, give and take. One person gives, one person takes. One party gives, one party takes. That's charity. Mutual aid is where both parties give and take. I give you this, I take that. You give me that, you take that. There is a mutual giving and taking because it is a mutual aid, right? I need what you have and you need what I have. And that's how it works. It's not, I have so much abundance and excess that I can just give to you and I don't need anything. That's not mutual aid. Mutual aid is where you make a mutual exchange. So I fix cars, mechanic, plumber needs his car fixed. I need my toilet fixed. Mutual aid. You have a special skill that I need, like you can mend clothes or make a flag or whatever, and I can do this for you. It's what I can do for you, you can do for me, because this is the love of the game. It's not, I'm going to abstain my transaction to you because you don't have this particular money in the quantity and amount that I want, or simply I refuse the right to help you because it's a free world, baby. It's just that free. It's just that real righteous and that individuality that I could just say, nah, I don't want none of that. Where is the collectivism? Where is that human attention to ourselves? So I must say, we must see ourselves. We must see each other in each other's eyes to address each other so that we can address each other's needs.
Could I comment on that?
Let's go.
So I think one of the things that makes that distinction so important to me is because, like, when you first hear something like that, you think, oh, you're criticizing charity. Like, isn't charity good? Like, you sound like a real, like stinky piece of shit when you're like, oh yeah, no, we don't want to do charity. But if you think about, you have to keep in mind that we have been like systematically conditioned to not be able to think about any alternative to the way things are now. And part of that is not thinking about the implications of certain forms of like social relationships. So if you think about what charity is, and you think about, I think one of the ways that I would like lead into this thought process, because I like to ask leading questions to get people to form thoughts on their own, is like, why don't you give to charity? Right? And not in like a shaming way, like literally, like, why aren't we all just going out and donating to charity? And the answer is simple, and it doesn't make you a bad person or anything. It's because we don't fucking have anything. Like, most of us are struggling just to get by. That's kind of the, almost definitionally, the condition that we're all in as, workers, as proletariat, and in some cases as, I guess, you could even argue, like, peasantry. Um, so in that, like, line of thinking, what charity does is it sort of implies a sort of social hierarchy where they have people who are able to give and they are graciously giving to those who cannot afford for themselves. Which also means that they get to make arguments about who deserves charity. They get to decide what gets done with that charity. And a lot of that money has to go into sustaining the organization, paying people, oftentimes really big salaries, even if they're not paying their workers anything because it's like a volunteer force. So it basically, like, it implicitly reaffirms a sort of like basic social dynamic that we're all conditioned to think of, which is in terms of domination and hierarchy, without really thinking about it. And that's one of the ways in which I think it's really, really insidious, because it's like, you think to yourself, oh, I'm helping people, like charity's really good, but that's not to say that it's bad. Like, if you can donate, to something, and that donation is being used for good, like, by all means, I'm not going to tell you that it's bad to do that. But like, think about what those resources can be doing instead of like being consolidated and pooled into like a de facto corporate structure and being funneled to God knows, where, because, on the whim of like a few individuals who are sort of running the show. Why don't we just address needs directly instead of like donating to an organization that says that they're going to like build a community garden, and then, maybe 30% of the funds go to that, if that. You could just go out and donate your labor, donate your time, the things that you actually have as a worker, and you'd be surprised at how much things can get done. Like, and if the argument is, oh, well, we can do better by pooling all of our resources, exactly, right? So why not just, cut out the middleman? I mean, that's exactly true. We are better when we pool our resources. We can act as a collective, and it just makes more sense to me to, not just do that financially. My dogs are barking, so I'm gonna go back on mute. But I think I've communicated the point I was trying to communicate.
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh yes.
and I'll follow up with that. I just think that also, like, that there are people who are in a position to donate to nonprofits in their communities, and not that you should definitely support nonprofits in your communities, especially if you know that they're serving like local populations in a really, really good way. But also, if you do have those extra funds, you should also think about donating to direct mutual aid, or if we happen in our lives to find people that have those extra kind of funds, that it is important to also let them know about donating to direct mutual aid organizations, and kind of like trying to equalize some of this, corporate and not philanthropy, so that some of that money can actually get to on the ground organizations who need it. If I'm making sense that.
You are. So I'll come in here as quick as I can, but that makes a lot of sense to me. I kind of think of myself as like a capitalism sniper, right? I'm talking to somebody and I want to radicalize them. I want to get them to sign the strike card. I want them to come to meetings and table with me. I want as much as they are prepared to give me, but I also know that what they're prepared to give me might be like the first 5 minutes of the conversation, and then it spoons out, okay, or whatever, whatever's going on there, right? And my life is a story of these little conversations like this over time, where I'm trying to stay friends with people, as I explore getting radicalized myself, and I've always been the edgy one. So like the idea of saying, well, hey, I'm going to try to talk you into like, oh, you're giving a bunch of money to NPR. Cool. That's that, yeah, that can be comforting. That actually NPR is a touch spot. I wish I hadn't picked that. But anyway, you give money to charity, that's an awesome thing. I give money to the Free Software Foundation. But I feel like every dollar that I give to mutual aid is worth $3 more. So I'm going to try to talk somebody that direction. If I get the cold shoulder, because maybe I'll try another angle, something else I could radicalize them on. But I might fall right back into, have you thought about pitching it in at a soup kitchen that's run by a church? And I'm not into the church, and I'm not necessarily sure that the the soup kitchen is revolutionary to some extent, but people got to eat, and work is work, and building community is where it's at, and it's day at a time everywhere.
Could I expand on that?
Please.
I think you
You
actually bring
can
up
me. I
another.
want to make sure. Yeah, Jaden, body language. Go, go, go.
Oh, you're good.
I actually would want to So I was talking earlier about sort of insidious ways in which our social relations reinforce the system that we live under, and I think you bring up a really good point when it comes to like, I want to go and radicalize people. I want to go talk to people, meet people, form real relationships. I would argue, one of the primary mechanisms that perpetuates capitalism and this mode of production and of social relation is alienation and atomization. Like, that's not a controversial thing. I'm not saying something like brilliant or profound by pointing that out. But it's almost like a cliche. As somebody who's like worked in nonprofit spaces, and I've also done like political canvassing and stuff, I can tell you, when I go to like affluent liberal neighborhoods, when I'm working for like an environmental org, let's say we have a call to action and we want people to go out and volunteer their time or participate in something. You have people who will literally throw money at you to get you away from them so that they do not have to talk to you. Um, like, so it does two things that I think really point to how it is a function of alienation and atomization, as opposed to primarily a function of social cohesiveness and actually aiding people, the humanitarian goals that it's meant to be. One is that wealthy people who do have a lot of resources to contribute use it as an excuse to like save face and to not actually do stuff. Like, they talk about it like donating is work, and it isn't, right? Like, you are doing labor and giving some of those resources. Again, it's not a bad thing that you're doing necessarily, but it's not the work. And you hear people a lot of times say stuff like, "Oh, well, I give to charity," like, what do you want from me? So that's not good. And the other thing it does is, let's say you're somebody like the person who was just speaking. I didn't catch your name, unfortunately. But let's say you're somebody like the person who's speaking, where you actually are donating because, what little resources you have, because you feel a genuine desire to help and to be in community with the people who need stuff, and because you need stuff, you want to improve your own community as well, on your own space. By your only option being, oh, I'm going to give to a charity that's set up and it follows the legal structure, that is removing that opportunity for connection, because now you're just putting in your credit card number and you get to feel good about an email or maybe like a little gift bag that they send you or whatever, and you don't actually get the opportunity to interact with these people in a meaningful way. Now, there are some things where organization is required and delegation is required. Like, you can't necessarily go travel to other countries where they might need, volunteers for like disaster relief or something. And donating to efforts to do that, might be the best way you have to contribute to that effort. But still, like, that shouldn't be the default. That I personally don't feel like that should be the default way in which we interact with the people around us who are in need. Like, if you have an organization in your community that's doing things, like giving them a check, is helpful, but I'm sure that the manpower is even more helpful, and you, as an individual and as a member of your community, will benefit far more by making those meaningful relationships, and actually like volunteering your time and providing aid. And I think mutual aid is a framework of it's just a framework that is more predisposed to that, as opposed to charity, which is predisposed to the sort of social stratification that we're all subject to as it is.
Because mutual aid requires work. I mean, mutual aid requires two parties to work. The both receiving and giving, the giving and receiving end, have to work. Charity is one way work. Right. So that justification where money is used to be like, oh, I work for this and therefore I could just, it is follows within that liberal scheme where it's I work for this and this is my like liquid amount of work, and then I can just put this elsewhere, and then there's my embodiment of that work. There's my representation, my contribution to this. It's 1-to-1 because I worked for it, and therefore that is my work. I have done good by the world, right? Because money gives us this ability to just say, nah, I abstain from work. So here's some liquid form of that. Here you go. Feel good about it because you can now do stuff with that, because money is that universal exchange. If that means anything, right? Good discussion, good talks.
Yeah, I wasn't suggesting that people shouldn't also like directly help with the mutual aid organization, but these are good points. But what I was talking about is the potential for, I guess what I'm saying, and I'm totally open to critique on this, but like some type of redistribution of wealth, not necessarily from the 1%, but from people that are like doing fine kind of thing, and that they should have more social responsibility to help out and to start donating to mutual aid organizations versus just tax exempt charities. That was my point, to say it more directly. And I mean that sort of like in the interim. Obviously, I would prefer that like we don't that we have a fully mutual aid society where we're just all collectively helping each other and money doesn't actually exist. But I meant sort of like in the interim to support workers and to equalize things, especially as we move in towards a strike and helping communities that really are going to start to need help amongst all of this inequality that is already here and is about to get worse. That's all I meant.
With Jaden's permission, I'll try to take a swing, and I know I'm pretty confident Jaden could connect these dots better than me. But I think one thing what I've heard in the past where this comes up is, if we think about it as, we don't want to substantiate the reactionary culture that exists via the dichotomy, false dichotomy of ability to change through the mechanisms of governance that we have. That said, this is a fine point because we aren't pushing back against useful efforts. For example, the Democratic, primary for mayor in New York, right? That's a lot of people are taking that as a victory, and we're not running around saying, well, that's a counter-revolutionary thing going on there. I mean, but it can be really easily. The difference is whether we let the pressure come off. And that's where it's at with mutual aid. If somebody's made the jump to say, hey, I can't live with myself if I'm not giving some money to some 501c3 or 501c4 or both of these things or whatever it is, we're not having the conversation. We don't prefer to have the conversation with them that could be substantiating the reactionary dichotomy or whatever it is. Like it's much more useful to come in at the point of how, just where you did, how much more effective that, I think you're seeing that dollar can be if you just put it in somebody's hand.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks for seeing my point there. Thanks.
Yes. Yes, everyone lives on the spectrum of where they are. I call it the strike. How far along are you on the strike? For me, I think I'm relatively far onto the strike. I don't make my money conventionally. I make all of my money depending on whose car breaks down. That's how it goes for me. But that's just for me. Everyone's on the spectrum of the strike into which they can do it to their own capacity, right? Whether that be at that stage of you are well invested into the system, you have a job, you have like all these stuff, then you engage in this active donation, very limited form, right? To the more expressive forms in which you actually go and engage in community work, mutual aid, directly contributing to the sustenance of people. Right down the street, that way down the street is a school, not a block away. And once a period of time, I'll say a week or a month, the Silicon Valley Second Harvest, which is basically a food distribution network, comes by to the school, and they'll always see a line go back out that across the school. And that is just one of the many food distribution networks that happens around in the area, and where people's needs are being addressed for free. The Silicon Second Valley Harvest, weird jumbled name, does these stuff, and I'm pretty sure people, organizations, your areas as well, right, set up these food networks and these food distribution programs, hot breakfast or groceries, right, all for free. And the point of me saying that is that there are different levels of which you can address people's needs. If you can volunteer your time at those to give hours to help distribute food, great. If you're out educating people, not to toot my own horn, but educating people is a very important thing, and we need more, right? We need more people agitating, telling people, gathering people, because as the beautiful lot that we have here, there is a much, much larger lot of individuals that need education, understanding of how things work. And there's many different facets to it: food distribution, education, actually going to protest too, to agitate as well, right? All that great stuff, all fine and dandy. And there's every single facet needs to be exercised. Not one single way that we will do this is the best and only way to do it. Every single thing that we do, because our expertise drives in the factors of the liberation. One person doing something really well in one section, one person doing really well, like something that they would do in another section, another branch of this liberation movement. We need people where they're at, and we need people always on top of it. Not everyone's gonna do this one same thing. Not everyone's gonna do this other same thing. We all just don't belong in one spot. We pertain to a particular spot that addresses our needs, to which then we can address other people's needs, right? We all belong somewhere in the strike, right? Because we all strike together, and that is the basis and aim of our strike. We do it together, and we all have a place in it. All right, you think you don't have a place in it, you find yourself first, to then find yourself in the strike, to then you look around with other strikers. See how that works? How great that is, right? Solidarity, people coming together. That's it out of me. Once again, I'm gonna hang out. More discussion. You guys talk, I'll be on. But if you need to leave. I'm done here. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for being here. We will be back next Wednesday at the same time, 4 p.m. PST. in the links down below in one of the voice channels discussion. Be here. That's us. It'll be in the events in the Discord calendar as well. It will be here. We'll be here. That's us. Thank you so much for being here. Right. Be here. Yeah, we'll be here. Be here. Be here. Thank you. Yeah, next week we'll do time banking stuff too. Oh, it'll be amazing. It'll be great. Yes.
Hi. So this is cool. I've never done stuff like this, but it also kind of feels like I just dove head first into something. So, like, where shall I begin in clarifying my understanding? Because this is a lot.
I'll try this one too. I took a training this weekend on outreach training, and you were talking to like all the people that I was listening to in that training in this meeting, or a lot of us are, here. So the high level is and I like to lead with, since you're already on Discord, like scroll the channels, the team channels, grab all the roles, look at their pinned posts. From there, go ahead and unselect from some stuff if you're an information overload person, or just leave it selected and maybe turn off some notifications if you're pretty into tuning your tech person. The most key resources are the main link tree. And then from there, do follow through at least the top 3-4 links in there. And then from there, actually, you might want to look at some of the like top of stack chats, things people are working on right now, because a lot of work that I'm seeing going on like through the Discord is building up like outreach kits. So if you imagine everything that you're doing is kind of training you to be an activist, to be an organizer, to be effective in your local community, uniting your neighbors to, I don't know, build barricades or whatever this all does come to. But, in between there, right, aligning everybody on a democratic process for getting our demands to the point of consensus. Right. For me, this is a big thing, right? The difference between consensus is the opportunity of being revolutionaries here. We can absolutely demand that people explain why our principles aren't good enough, and then we can all make them better. And that can have consensus. Screw democracy. This is too important. I can go on for hours, but feel free to reprompt, please, if that wasn't a good place to get started.
I'll just add to that. I thought that was all great, but also, if you're looking to connect with people more locally to you who are involved with GSUS, you can contact like me, Day, Jaden, any of the other people that have been, somewhat vocal here tonight, that will help put you in touch with your local chapter if you want to do, and hopefully they've been formed and they have a chapter facilitator. Some states don't yet, as far as I understand it, but we can help put you in touch with your local chapter. They're also listed on the website, generalstrikeus.com. There's a chapters page, so you can find the chapters that have formed, the state chapters that have formed. You can find their various links there. So if you do want to just start at the local level, you may already have a state chapter and can reach out to them.
The local level, that's correct. Yeah, don't get it twisted. The national, all we're here to do is provide and give resources to the local so that they can better address the needs of the local, because that's where the person don't live in the national. You may be a citizen of America, but you're also a resident of your local community. And that's what's more materially closer to you, more materially immediate. So it's not just the person who you elect for mayor in your town has much more impact, I promise you, than your senator, right? The person you vote as senator is just from twiddling their thumbs up, but your mayor is twiddling their thumbs closer to you, right? And that matters more because they're closer to you. So always get into your local much more. The national is here to just redirect people who got into the national funnel them into the lower areas. That's where the change happens. That's where the change happens when you are inserted into your local, and that's where the funnel of the national comes in. So we're gathering a bunch of people into the funnel, and then and then 50 different lines go to different areas. 4 different lines. This area, or you're from here, you go here, or you're from here, you go. Connect you into your local community so that you can start meeting the people to start spurring revolution, to start addressing your needs, right? Because all of a sudden, before the network, before GSUS, you needed needs, you couldn't get those needs. You're suffering from this existential crisis that capitalism is going to end the world, and you don't know what's going on. Now you have people to do that with. Now everyone around you is also screaming the same hysteria, but it's fine because you're all going on strike and it's a solidarity thing, right? You're going crazy when you're screaming hysteria and everyone around you is telling the system's fine. It's much better to be in an environment where everyone's screaming hysteria, but we all know why the system's fucked, right? That's kind of the space you want to be in. You want to be in this echo chamber, right? That tells you the system's fine when clearly it's not. When clearly that you see oppression and not good shit everywhere. That's where you enter these spaces, these lovely, grand, great spaces, GSUS, these GSUS servers, these chats, these discussions. It's all great. Oh, it's all great. I'll just go on and on talking about the strike.
Oh, and I'll add to that. That was a great explanation. That just because like we're all in technically the national space at the moment in this chat, all or most of us are already involved or about to be involved in our local chapters as well. So we just happen to intersect in this national space. It's not like that's the only hat we wear. We're also involved in our local chapters.
That's right.
Get in on that too, right? And all the spaces are equal according to the same crap I was on about a minute ago, right? This idea that we start from a place of principle, and that's where our true power comes from. As long as we can always identify these principles, and we can, here we are, right? Even if the theory makes no sense or we just rebel against it, like we'll get there. At the end of the day, something like this manifesto is informing us of how to get it done, right? If it inspires us, it's telling us we're in the right place, and it's trying to give us recipes to to help us get 11.6 million people, if I'm very frank.
Drop that manifesto in here again in the PDF. Haha. Note
think
some
I
spelling
downloaded it.
errors. Nice. Note some spelling errors. That's okay. It's still in the making. That's it. That's our manifesto. That's what we'll. So, quick note: when the Black Panthers, as Comrade Day has of course mentioned to us, that the platform our platform is based off of, every time the Panthers went out, or most of the time, especially Huey P. Newton, would go out, explain the program, attach the program to the material condition of the people they're talking to, and understand that what we're fighting for directly helps you, and the system that you're in directly oppresses you. This is what the program addresses, and the points that fight for your liberation. We want you to vote. I mean, we want you to be a liberationist, but the program in essence is to make specific points to root the common struggle into a class solidarity to which then you can mobilize, right? It is the rise in awareness, organization, and then mobilization. First, you have to know the problem, know the program, come together surrounding the problem, organizing around the program, to which then you mobilize and act upon the program, to which we say self-determination for all, free housing for all, universal healthcare for all. Classic stuff, classic things that are necessary for the development of our society, progressing forward. Socializing production.
Okay. Cool.
Okay, wait, but there's more. I just have to come in on the woo-woo side, right? Now I want to mention, and this is going to be true on every level too, right? A percentage determined by just who's there and how we're feeling of every meeting that you're going to be in is going to be some self-care. As in ways this session has been too, and that's just a part of this, right? And it's the culture of who we are every bit as much as, my stump speech about the value and principle, that is just like, but yeah, it's been like a revolution for me personally coming here, and particularly this political series is just united ideas that have been in my head, but not united in a way that, like, I don't know, it's like getting hit by a bus.
Okay.
You know, and you know, like take that the flip side, right? If we're on the outreach team and we're reaching out to a union or whomever, or another group in our locale that's doing some organizing, we think they're aligned, they might be willing to call for the strike with us, for example. Then we're you know, we're seeing that their traumas, and that's going to make us much more effective and useful to them as allies if we can see the world through their traumas and not be biased, you know, shut in, so to speak, by the trauma that I have of this culture shock of meeting people that I can talk to about any of this, or whatever else it is that you have to kind of, the barriers that we have to communicate. Um, so I just encourage that, making the personal connection always like just the center of your activism, because that's what GSUS is really, and in essence is a network of principled people that just will not shut up about our cause.
Well,
And there,
sorry. Go ahead.
oh, I'll just say real quick, there is also a community support team channel on the national Discord. If you do need somebody to talk to, you know, you could find that person anywhere randomly, obviously, but you can always go to that community support team to ask questions, or if you just need a friend, need a little chat. The you know, there's people that have volunteered to watch over that channel as well, and hopefully you can find some help there if you just ever need to get reoriented or need a little moral support.
Oh, thanks. My next question is this more like social action, or is this like a political party?
Social action, because we come together for it. Like this is like, there's no political affiliation to the strike, because the strike is rooted in labor, the things that we do. Right, the strike is to withhold labor from people who take it, the capitalists who take it. So we're social action. This is a social phenomena because we're all in this together. You know, GSUS is this action of the people.
Okay.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean that like political discussions or electoral politics are off limits. It's just that, you know, we try to cultivate a general understanding that there's so much more outside of that world that you know, that labor can do to actually effectuate change, you know, outside of the electoral system, you know. And I think we're all still sort of working through like what how those two things come together. um you know, I'm still tossing it over in my brain every day, um as well. But no, this is not an electoral party. This is like a grassroots movement for like significant radical transformation of society.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. I do organize with a political organization, like an actual like a based party, like we call them like as you said, a political party. I organize with them. GSUS is a grassroots organization. They're two separate phenomena. So of course GSUS is grassroots, whereas political organization seeks top down type of structured organization, and they're different. They're very very different forms of going about how you conduct your work, how you conduct the labor to make that a thing. Tell you what, political parties much different. I do appreciate GSUS a lot more, but I recognize the necessity for such party building. Party building culture too is also great. You also make friends.
Oh, well, the reason why I asked is like, due to my more of my religious affiliation and beliefs, I don't participate in partisan politics, so that's why I wanted to double check.
Oh, GSUS sees right past like this two-party kind of political system because all that which politics emerges from, what the people's actions, right, and then what people say. What people say, what people do, make our politics. We see past this gesture, this grandeur, this flaunt and this like glamour when it comes to politics. When really politics is just, you good? No, let's talk about it, right? The direct addressing of people.
Cool. Thank you.
Hit us with
So I've,
more. We're loving this. Great.
Huh?
I was afraid. I was afraid you got shy for a second. My apologies for interrupting.
no, I'm cool. I'm cool. I was going to ask because I've heard of decentralization type movements before. I know, like, there was this one, or rather, it is this one movement in like South America having to do with like the farmers that this kind of reminds me of. I just can't remember the name of it right now. I think what else was one? Black Lives Matter was also decentralized, was it? Or no?
I was too baby infancy in my political development to be there.
Yeah,
Unfortunately.
BLM
I would
was
say yes
really
and no.
was
Yes
pretty
and
was
no.
pretty decentralized, kind of in the same way that like 5051 is. Like there was an overarching organization, but like most of the political action was grassroots, individual cities, local organizers.
What can
And
we
then I
not?
think the local then I think the national organization was really more of a kind of interfacing with the press kind of thing.
I'm sorry to
Also,
interrupt.
I'm pretty sure the organization came after the grassroots movement did. Like it started as a social media campaign, and then there were organizations that sprung from it, and a couple of them were largely branding. They were selling merch.
That's
Yeah,
right.
I'm pretty sure that's correct. Yeah.
It's the Antifa process, right? I heard people hypothesizing that eventually there'll be, the Antifa will become a decentralized organization by sheer force of will of the resistance and insist, to the non-existent thing. And I think it's fair to say you can kind of create a movement because a movement is distinguished from a project because it doesn't need to have an organization. It could, right? And that's BLM is, I think, perhaps, was an exploited and somewhat opportunistic organization around a movement that it tried to capture. Not that it was, like if you were going to BLM protests, you're doing the right thing, right? It's all the same conversation about, well, is the dollar going to NPR doing my soul any good? Yeah, but we can do more.
Yeah, but it's my understanding that Antifa is not an organization. It's a philosophy. It just stands for anti-fascist.
That's absolutely true and correct. I don't mean to confuse that issue. I'm saying that that's true for now, and I've heard it joked that eventually there'll be some people branding themselves under that name.
I
It's
know,
it's
and
a
I was
pretty
even saying
it's a
that for like
pretty dark
40
thought, honestly.
for 40 years. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, same here.
Cool.
Sorry.
No worries. No worries. Well, thank you. I gotta go now. I guess I may see you guys next Wednesday. It's kind of good that I have Wednesdays off.
Nice.
So,
This is always fire in my personal experience. This may be my fourth time getting here, and there are a lot of meetings actually that have 20 minutes of this, especially if they happen to have Jaden in them. But there's just a lot of team meetings. Your local meetings for any given one of these teams are going to be the same meeting in a freaky, weird kind of way. We're all kind of learning from each other how to work through an agenda, keep decent notes, get it all put out there, turn that into action on the streets, make good decisions on the streets. So if I bring it back to the topic we were just on, what BLM as a thing hadn't capitalized on by the time this movement has a carbon footprint in its website is the idea that dual power is what decentralization has to mean. The idea, and particularly the starfish idea that we have, right? That says you can cut off as many arms as you can. Go ahead, do it. It's just going to energize us to grow back arms faster and harder. We are going to be right here with our same principles, counting our martyrs daily.
Yeah, and I think that it's just there's so many movements that have come before this that are we're all taking from and familiar with, and either a little bit or a lot or whatever. We're all different generations, coming from different backgrounds and stuff, and but then when you have like a labor movement like this, then a mass labor movement like this, like that's a way to unite so many different people, and so that sort of, we should always come back to that place and that focus, like similar to like the poor people's movement, um and yeah, that it's really about uniting working people, that's sort of the key to changing this whole system to a system that works for just a few people, to a system that really works for everybody.
Yeah, you got it. Go preach.
I did it. I got there.
No, but I mean, if you can walk through all the fire that this meeting has been and still feel like you have an alignment of principle with basically everyone on this call, like sometimes there's vague areas, right? There's details we're going to have to work out as we get into the more hundreds of thousands and millions, and we'll have to fight to keep our principles crisp, and they'll probably get crisper in ways that it's impossible to envision now. But we have to keep them very clear. Right now, I think they're just beautiful. We started the meeting going through them. They're in the chat 3 times. I won't try to read them from memory or anything, but like, if you got nuances in there, get them in. That's awesome. Really awesome work, right? Because that probably helps 10,000 people right now, right? If somebody else, it's going to hit the same, not quite right way that it's meant to hit, to invite that person in, to see it as a matter of principle that they can stand for, instead of a challenge to some, a viewpoint that grew out of some poisonous soil related to capitalism.
Yeah, and the more people we reach, the more people we're going to have to integrate.
Exactly.
And so,
it's all about the reach.
It's only going to get more challenging, but hopefully it will also get more rewarding with that challenge. Yeah.
Exactly my trip. I mean, to the point where, as much as, my family's been missing seeing me around, because this is getting, well beyond all my volunteering time. I was a avid volunteer before I got both feet in with this project, and they're giving me the space because they can see the passion that it's unlocking in me. And yeah, it just feels good for the world, even though it's, even though it's like, hey, come do your chores more than we like.
Yeah, I often say that, while I haven't seen my X-Wing fighter delivered to my backyard yet, this community is good enough for now. It feels like my Millennium Falcon a little bit.
Good enough is a lot, am I right? Like in the Millennium Falcon, holy hard vibe there. Yes, yes. Let me turn on the camera and show this office I'm sitting in. Here's me. Oh, hat. Nope. Okay, that's not the hat. I thought it was. Okay, here's my office. whiteboards. We have whiteboards. Touch screens that we're learning to program. And a lot of screens for keeping an eye on a lot of different computer programs that are running all the time. Mostly related to building free software. And there's chat. Hi, chat.
Oh, sorry. Is your camera supposed to be on? There you go.
I thought it was. It was showing me
Right
a preview.
there.
All right. So here's me. We'll do that again. Here's me.
That's right.
And here we have toys and whiteboards. And a whole lot of screens.
Your command center.
Yeah. And then here we have audio engineering junk, a couple of boards, big board, little board, tower up here. This tower in here is battery backups and video switching gear. So I have the equipment to rebuild satellite stations of this, and I've been kind of researching what are the cheapest options to like set up little command centers, mobile command centers, state command centers. And I've also got, you know, maybe up to a couple dozen 1U rack servers that I'm potentially prepared to mail out places when we get to that point. But the technology operation is still building. You know, we got a lot of iterations potentially of software before like we have the thing that we would, you know, want to mail out servers to run. You know, but my point is just like a lot of people have been preparing for a lot of, you know, a lot of different ways, right? For me, it looks like some really weird nerd shit that mostly is building free software today. But like, I don't know. When I say stuff like, there is an amazing amount of like capacity to do really astonishing, you know, there's an amazing capacity to do a lot of really astonishing work. I'm staring at all this, right? I'm utilizing other people's work and I'm utilizing a lot of mostly free software where I can, right? And I'm reading mostly what has just been given away to me. And, you know, even though I'm running through the capitalist paradigm of the hardware, I mostly had to buy and then cobble together or get given and cobble together. Or, you know, I've been building hand-me-down systems for so long, right? And so all this is kind of putting that knowledge together. And I don't know. This has just been such an inspiring opportunity to like teach that. We talked earlier about the care network. I got a call from another volunteer today who's just had to have somebody to cry to. And I can't tell you how touched I was that they thought of me. You know, it was just we'd been in a meeting together and they were like, fuck yeah, Corbin wants to listen to this. And it was some shit, right? That no doubt will come up in a meeting eventually because it was topical, because you know, a lot of us are pretty battle hardened right now, right? You know, where it's just like the things are hitting us and we're looking into the work, which means looking to our neighbors, you know, trying to figure out what the next step is and, you know, getting our mayor radicalized, you know, I think of here, right? But I don't know, just everything in every meeting hits for me. I guess that's the big message I have to share.
Thanks, Corwin. Thanks for the tour of your studio.
Yes, thank you.
Love that.
Bears on stack.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I've done several meetings so far, and Corin's been in every single one. And it's just finally nice to see, to put the face with the voice. He's been very inspirational. Like I love listening to him talk. So I'm very grateful I got to finally like see his command center. So thank you so much, Corin, for all you've done.
Yes.
It's my pleasure. I'm a mirror to what you see here. I feel like it has unlocked the thing in me. So I'll just share another weird personal thing here. I've been a writer since I was 13. You know, I'm trying to write a life story around a bunch of this, so I won't get into too much of the details. I got to save my juicy bits to help me write this philosophy I want to string it together with. But the key is that, you know, most of my intimates know is that I can't always write. Like I sometimes write 30, 50, 100 pieces and then I'm done for 10 years and it's just heartbreaking. And I sit down and write and produce the most terrible trash during those times. And it's I guess conditioned me, I'll go with, to just be mentally prepared in this moment to say with a fully straight face, meeting all of you. All I can do not to name names. Has been just life changing, and that I just feel like I'm unlocked there. I'll talk about you till I'm dead.
I think about like how weird it will be when, once we really get this revolution going and we make the changes that we want to make in this world, and then realize that some of us never actually were in a physical room together to like hug each other or celebrate. I don't know. That's maybe I'm looking too far ahead. Maybe this is my Hollywood movie mind or something. But I think that that's kind of cool and strange to think about in a way too.
Bears on stack.
Georgia. I'll say it for you. Georgia. We say Georgia. That's how we. Georgia. Born and raised. Originally from Savannah. Currently living in the CSRA. We've been up here for 5 years. Yeah, I'm told about my accent all the time. I've been told about my accent since I was little. We were in Universal Studios. I think I was like 10. And somebody heard me say something and they said, "Are you from Georgia?" I said, "Yes." "Can you tell?" They said immediately. So thank y'all so much.
If I ever come back in your accent, know that that is my weakness of character and in no way a reflection on yours. I'm not mocking you. I find it beautiful and my brain just wants to see if it can do it. And I'm sorry if that is offensive ever.
No, it's not. I'm not a Karen, thank goodness. I don't find it offensive. If you want to try, please try. Say Georgia.
Georgia.
I love it.
I studied accents at the Renaissance Festival in Minnesota, where I met my partner of 20 years.
Congratulations.
With a partner of 7 years, because life is weirder than what you plan. We practically broke up on that issue, and then it was so weird. Anyway, never mind. So not personal life story, but or unless it's yours.
We had gone on the Disney cruise a few years back when the kids were little, and we were eating in the animation palette, and Squirt and Crush come around they swim around the restaurant and talk to everybody at the different tables. And they stopped at our table and they were talking to us, and he said, "So where you guys from? Y'all got a really cool accent." And we said, "Georgia." He said, "Georgia, I love it." And then he goes, "So how do you say hi in Georgia?" We said, "Hi, y'all." So he had the whole restaurant go, "Hi, y'all."
Yeah, it's funny. Your voice and your accent sounds like one of my friends who lives in Tennessee. And now I'm wondering, did she actually grow up in Georgia? And I just don't, and she now lives in Tennessee, and I just don't know that about her. So now I'm going to rush back to her and ask her, because you guys sound so similar.
What part of Tennessee is she from?
She's near oh my God, I'm blanking on it so much, but the music capital, I feel so silly.
Nashville?
Yeah, she's near Nashville, like in the suburbs of Nashville.
Okay. Because I was going to say, if she's from Chattanooga, that's right there on the Georgia line, so that would make sense.
Ooh. No, I don't think she's from Chattanooga, but maybe she also lived in Chattanooga. Okay. All right. I got to go back and talk to her. It's funny because we both went to the same art school in New York City too, like around the same time, and we never crossed paths because we were in like totally different majors. And then I met her in graduate school, and anyway, but like I'm realizing I always thought she was from Tennessee, and maybe she's from, I always thought she was from the Nashville area. Maybe she's not. Maybe she's from Georgia or Chattanooga.
That would make sense. Thank y'all for liking my accent. I do appreciate that.
I went to I got sent to space camp. A bunch of people from like the local Spanish community. I grew up going to science fiction conventions when I was 5 or 6. My dad sold his first novel, and then by the time he sold his third novel, he quit his other job, like programming computers, and started writing full time. And so like I grew up in this community of science fiction fans, and it was kind of this, it's easiest to describe as like this culture of piracy, right? The idea, it's this proto-communist society where we're like trying to like throw together our membership dues and like throw a big party where it's okay to talk about everything, and a bunch of people are going to go off and do drugs, and some of us are super fucking uncomfortable with that, which we handle by going to the other part of the hotel, and we specifically laid out the hotel to handle that. And there are people that can just deal with everyone that are wandering around, and like so my mom is famous in local community and kind of in national community for having invented the Department of Operations, the idea that we should keep a log of exactly what all the convention's official decisions are, and that a small group of people should decide whatever gets written down, right? That ever the police might collect, right? And this, oh my God, it's become such a nightmare. But anyway, this is so that the things that affect one's mindset and headspace, right? I have this idea that it's very easy to poison a shared community that has to share responsibility by talking about safety and public safety in an unprincipled way, which only takes not fully rationalizing risk. And so this is a thing that I've been making myself very unpopular about in chat today in several contexts. So I definitely appreciate thoughts, because this is one where I struggle to reach people, right? Because I come from sort of a tunneled view of having studied a lot of the things and reaching for technical terms or highly nuanced terms to other people that I might understand differently from I think, more technical view. But who cares, right? We're trying to reach people, not necessarily lecture or be pedantic about technology. So, I mean, there are no wrong answers to the question I'm asking, however intimidating it might seem. I always like to use the challenge of a friendly audience to ask to risk introducing a little confusion, because that's where the opportunity is, right? So thanks for letting me show you around my office.
Thank you for letting us visit your office. We appreciate you very much.
I know how big my camera.
I couldn't hear that very well. I'm sorry.
I was thanking you for letting us share your space. We appreciate it.
I heard you, Bear. I thought I heard a second voice there, which I couldn't make out very well.
It was my son.
Oh, thank you, Bears. Thank you, Bears. Friend and offspring. We call my wife and I see. I'm trying to unlearn that my wife thing. It's so broken. So my partner and I, my elder partner, he, right, and I like to have for a long time called our kids variously my friend and in the staff, right? And that's our joking way of sort of mocking capitalism and corporate culture that we've shared for a long time. So the parents are the senior managers, and kids, as they grow up, they get into senior management, and then we call meetings and we staff out work, and we have we variously try to use all the ridiculous attempts to legitimize the exploitation of labor that is business, kind of as a metaphor for our family. We also use stuff like the family spaceship and away teams, and we have a lot of that kind of dynamic. I guess.
So a lot of people, when they hear us talk, they think because we talk slow, we think slow. And I'm not going to lie, for some of us, that's true. But for others, it's not. I've always been a little more open. I guess I became a feminist at the age of 6, and I know this is going to sound funny, but Jessie Spano from Saved by the Bell really inspired me as a kid, because she really at that age, when you see it, she really truly believed in equality and fighting, for what was right, and not letting the guys in the group like keep her down. When they'd start their crap, she'd call them a pig, and like I gravitated towards that. She was just an eye opener for me. All my other friends were like, Kelly, she's a cheerleader, blah blah blah, and I wasn't like that. It was Jessie. They wrote that role specifically for Elizabeth Berkley when she had auditioned for the show, because she actually auditioned for Kelly Kapowski, but they gave it to Tiffany Amber Thiessen. But they loved her so much they wrote her own character. And when I saw her, I remember watching those episodes when I was little, and just, that's what I want to be. I want to be someone who stands up for what's right. I want to be the one who doesn't let women get pushed around. I want to be someone that can help. And I mean, we're lower middle class. Like, I'm not going to sit there and pretend we're anything else. 9/11 happened while I was a freshman in college, and it just broke me. So I didn't go back and finish my degree, and that was really hard on me mentally. My husband is a pipe fitter in a union. I'm a stay-at-home mom. I've got 2 kids. My parents live with us. They're on Social Security. My dad does have a pension. But we bought a house together. With the New Deal being cut, my husband loses his job. The Social Security is going to go. We're going to lose our house. Like, I know it's coming eventually. Don't know when, but I know it's coming eventually. So if I can put in my karma points while I can.
I love that
And
metaphor
building.
so much.
Say that.
Sorry, I was trying to time. I failed. I love that metaphor. Put in my karma points while I can.
If I put in my karma points, hopefully there's somebody out there who can be there and be a support for us when we're going to need it. Because I've always been like that. My dad's always done that. I remember going through the mall as a kid and my dad buying meals for people that were sitting there, and you knew they were hungry. So
yeah, and it's much harder on us if we're raised by people that don't cover our eyes, right?
Yeah, my dad's always been that person.
You can't live forever with your eyes covered up and covering up so it's like it's this hard choice that anyone who has children is making. We have 5. Our oldest has graduated with really practical things that don't seem to make a lot of sense under the present administration, on account of needing government support to actually have work in that area related to forestry or whatever. And, you know, um, and then our youngest, soon to turn 10, right? Grappling with like being othered because of a choice made around age 3 or 4, watching siblings then 13, 14 deal with gender issues and like adopted this aggressively defensive he adopted this aggressively defensive posture on they, like everybody's they to me, like my gender is, like every mom is they, dad's they, everybody's they. Like I correct people to they, and that's just how I dealt with like. And he's past that now. Like, but like for like that is an example where you got to give people space on gender. I mean, yeah, he's breaking all the rules there, right? He's putting his thing on other people, but what he's doing is saying this is how you can communicate to me, like the tool, right? Like he's like making a thing about gender is not going to fuck with me, and you can see that, and like othering that would be just cruel, right?
Completely. I appreciate all the support. I saw the chat. Thank y'all so much. It's emotional. It's hard. It's
Bear, I really identify with your story. My dad was a public defender, and he was 75, still working to, try to stop people from going to jail for essentially minor offenses, and or less jail time. He did that for 30 to 40 years. And then he had a massive stroke, a very, very, very rare kind of stroke that essentially forced him to retire. And he is completely disabled. This happened around the time of my birthday. And he may never walk again. And my parents have essentially no retirement savings. They're on Medicaid. And so I feel your pain. I feel what you're talking about. And I think we all feel that, and we all have those same worries. And I can't read the future. I can't know that we will be successful in this. But what I do know is that if we continue to band together and to understand that we all have those kinds of stories, and we're all fighting for those same things. We're all fighting for our families and the work that they've already put in, and we're all fighting for a better, more equal and just world, that it's a worthwhile fight. It's absolutely 100% a worthwhile fight, and that gives me hope. And to just continue to be committed to being there for each other, even though we span these massive distances, and again connecting with your local chapter and local community and things that are already going on there, which I'm sure you already are. But just knowing that there's this vast network building that has similar stories to what you're going through. I hope gives you some hope just in imagining the sheer numbers of stories like yours and mine. I haven't even been able to have kids with my partner, even though I want to, because of our financial situation. So anyway, this is the reason behind everything that we're all doing.
Yeah. And see, you're not, y'all are not having kids because of the financial situation. We have two. And, it's terrifying. My oldest is autistic of all things too. So like, the RFK stuff, I know what happened in Nazi Germany. So like, because I'm really good at history, especially when it comes to World War II and how all of that came about. And I know what it's like to live in the South, where if you're different, you're automatically a target for bullying. My son was bullied really bad. That's why we took him out of school, because he would come home in kindergarten and say, "My tummy hurts. I don't feel good," because he was already being bullied.
Yeah.
So like, it's just this is, my heart's broken, but I know I'm gonna fight until the end. Like, I mean, I'm not gonna give up, and I know that's what it sounds like a little bit, but
No,
we're gonna
No, it
fight
just
until we
no,
can't fight anymore.
it just sounds like you want to fight with love and sensitivity, and I think that's the right place to be.
that takes guts, right? If your fight
Yeah.
takes more courage, you're on the right side.
Sorry, I'm empathic, and like watching these parents get ripped away from their kids, like it's just, my heart breaks every day for those families that are going through this now already.
Yeah. I think about it every single day too. I wake up and I think about it, and yeah.
Yeah, sorry,
It's
y'all. I did not
no, no,
realize
no,
that I
no.
was gonna emotion dump like this.
No.
It's
It's just
one thing I can't let it go. You can't apologize for that. I'm from Minnesota.
it's really important. We need revolutionary empathy. This is what we need to cultivate. It doesn't, the strength of the movement doesn't come from burying the empathy. The
Don't
strength of
apologize
the
for
movement comes
apologizing
from
for what you
lifting it
said.
up.
We got to do this to each other. Every time one of us makes that mistake and apologizes for showing the emotion that is due us, you know, I'm
That's
sorry,
a
but
Southern thing,
Oliveri,
though.
you gotta
We're
come off
taught
mute and do
that.
this again and again and again. Say it again. Say it again. Say it now. Like, I just need to hear it
And
so much.
that's hard for people in the South, because we're taught that we're emotionally taught that you don't discuss that kind of stuff. You keep that to yourself, so when you do discuss it, you're being rude, you're back talking, you're being disrespectful. So like, we don't talk about religion, we don't talk about politics. And I finally told my father-in-law, I was like, that's the problem. We stopped talking about it, and now this is where we're at. We've got Nazis in the White House, we've got Nazis in every arm of our government. And that's part of the religion, and that's part of the politics put together. Like, I mean, they merged into one because we stopped talking about them. We're not allowed to talk about them. And that's where we fucked everything up.
Right. We stopped talking to each other. We stopped trying to understand each other. We stopped the dialogue. And now it's just one message being
Yes.
Gaining a following versus actual dialogue and exchange. And you come up to the north, and I'm not saying that we don't have our extreme right problem here. We definitely do. But you come up to the north, and people may be a little bit prickly at the first moment. We tend to be fast paced and prickly. But we're also very honest and empathetic with each other as well, and so that is a difference. But there's also something that we can take from both sides of the east. From the north and the south, there are things that we can actually give and take from each other to learn. And I think we really haven't done enough of that. We really haven't connected enough. Because I think there's like a tendency and I'm just speaking as like someone who lives on like the East Coast, right? I know there are people there are people in this chat who don't live on the East Coast.
And they don't and it's funny because it is cultural. Like
Yeah.
even though
Yeah.
it's southeast versus northeast, there's
Yeah.
still a connection being East Coast versus West Coast, kind of.
Yeah. And it's a gradient too. And, you know, you still have like Maryland and Virginia in the middle and, you know what I mean? And it's all a gradient. But, and it's funny when they do that SNL skit, Banger Justice.
Yeah.
Because it's supposed to be a courtroom in Bangor, Maine. But they act like it's set in the South. Banger Justice. So I love that because Maine is largely rural as well. Anyway, so but yeah, this dialogue has to happen, and you know, we have to find ways to not feel like we're so different, and we've got to find not just our similarities but just like our solidarity and like learn more about each other. And you know, again, just speaking as a East Coaster, but what you're pointing to is a problem, and it's something that does need to be addressed.
I appreciate having the space to dump. My family has, I mean, when all this started, I broke. November was bad enough, but when he did the Nazi salute at the inauguration speech, I broke. Like I'm a Libra, and my fulcrum just plummeted. I don't have my scales anymore. So, and my family's just like, they've been really supportive about me protesting and everything, but at the same time, I'm not allowed to talk about it at home because I had talked about it so much at the very beginning. I guess like I used all my tickets up. So having this spot has been, I appreciate this.
Good. That's great to hear. So let's I'm probably gonna head out soon. I'd love to hear a little bit more what other people want to say, but I'm gonna shout out myself. But Bear, if you ever want to connect with me, DM me, talk a little bit more anytime you feel like it, just hit me up.
I appreciate y'all. Thank y'all so much. The chat's been, everybody on the chat's been wonderful. Thank y'all.
You're wonderful too. Welcome to our little club of let's get 11.6 million people to agree on some specific demands to end this shit. And let's start a process of revolutionary change that we won't ever allow to end.
Thank you, Corwin. Hey, do we all get some sleep? Or we're not all in the time zone, in the same time zone, but
yeah, it's part of my plea deal. So no, wait, yes, sleep is good. Thank you. You are the best for self-care, honestly. I should wrap.
Wait, I'm having trouble hearing you at the moment. Oh, you left. Okay. I'm gonna head out. Thank you, Jaden. Thank you so much for hosting all of us and this lovely discussion afterwards. Thank you for presenting the manifesto. I know I came in.
Yes, thank you for being here. That's correct. Everyone, thank you for being here. Love you all. Take care, get some rest, and then get out of here.
Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.